So one of the things we wanted to do tonight is we wanted to recap what's been going on. And my goodness, Thomas and I were talking earlier about the fact that we cannot believe it's only been 8 days since we first met. We met the very first time as Operation Ally. Last week, Wednesday, had over 180 people join that meeting. Then we followed that up with Sunday having a repeat of the same information to a new group and had about 70 people there. Just about every single day over the last 8 days, Operation Ally, Social Justice Advocacy Project, and other affiliates have been having something moving the ball forward, and it doesn't stop, folks. We've got a tremendous plan in place to capture the momentum that the entire nation is looking for right now. The entire nation is looking for some leadership and direction, and we fully intend on being able to provide that for people. So if you see people, hear people asking, hey, where do I go? I need some tools. I need to do something besides just post in March. I want to know, what do I do after the March? And this is the group for them, because they'll be equipped with tangible tools. But, we wanted to share some of the things that we've seen go on. And I know, Thomas, there are a couple of folks specifically that you wanted to mention and thank for the work that they've done, and recap some of the great successes that we've had. I know I've seen from the Operation Ally Facebook page, which, by the way, once again, if you are viewing on Facebook, we're asking that you push yourself over to Zoom. If you have that capability, please do. So that way we are able to have you participate in the breakout groups that we will be facilitating today. So Thomas, I know in our Operation Ally page, we've seen some tremendous successes and questions. And I think one of the greatest successes has been that the two of us haven't been the only people giving great feedback and tools for people to go out and implement change in their own communities. We're so thankful for those of you who have made posts or have contributed to helping your fellow allies work through some of the tough conversations that they're having. We're just so thankful for that. We fully intend on continuing to provide that type of support and structure for you. So what other things do we want to celebrate today, Thomas? I think you might be on mute.
I was. There you go.
There we go.
So first, I want to give a shout out to everyone who's reached out to an elected official to be heard. We've heard quite a few updates from folks. Just most recently, Liz Encarnacion shared her experience with the Ontario mayor. That's the kind of leadership that we're not only hoping for, but I think the type of leadership that inspires us all. Liz also spent hours, an entire day, editing an informational video to get out some counter statistics to a prevailing narrative that was being spread around. So thank you, really, Liz, for a lot of your sacrifices that you've been making. We've had the debate team at ULV list out every city council and school board meeting and link and a spreadsheet for us all that makes accessing your city, if you're in the region, easier. And I know that was a project that required a lot of heavy lifting. Thank you to Rob for managing that and for the program they put forward earlier in the week, as well as Matt White for participating in the dialogue that we had last night. And then really just everybody who is out, having the tough conversations, not only in your organization, but amongst your family and friends. We've gotten so many reports, and that's what inspired us to do the breakout. I'm not going to go into, those reports because those were personal, but thank you for folks who are willing to have tough conversations with your loved ones, understanding that that's the only way that we're going to be able to move this thing forward. You're muted now, Jason.
My turn, huh? Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great ride over the last 8 days. I know I've seen folks like Rudy and Rhonda and others who have just said, hey, here's a conversation I recently had with somebody, or hey, I got stumped in this question. And that's what this group is for. Those times where, hey, I've never really had this conversation. I've never really thought this. I've never really had to think about this so critically. Help me understand my stance here or there. And, you know, one of the things that's been fantastic is just our ability to focus on the primary issue. You know, so many things are being brought up on the peripheral of, you know, Black Lives Matter and the movement for true equality across our land, that it's easy to get distracted, and people want to say, well, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? And the key thing, team, is really, it's just about staying focused on what are we trying to accomplish. And it doesn't mean we have to diminish or demean any other movements. All it means is a simple response of, you know what, I'm very, you know, I have my passions that are very directed, and I know that if I'm going to achieve the things that I want to go after, and if I'm going to help this community forward, I can't, you know, just run after every good cause. There's something that I've got to fight for, and this is where my heart is directed at the moment. So it really is a great group that we are developing, and I'm so happy with what we've got going. So Thomas, I know we wanted to move forward into speaking around health, or are we going to go into the breakout sessions next? Mute.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing this apparently. I want to let's jump into the health thing because I want to get that while folks are a little fresh. Those who are friends with me and have known me over the years know that I've undergone a health transformation. I've lost over the last year now close to about 70 pounds of fat, and I've put on about 25 pounds of muscle. So I look very differently the way now than I did literally a year ago. And so that passion has almost become a point of advocacy for me, where I am also a public administration student. I have a master's in public administration. I am all but a dissertation on a doctorate in public administration. And so I'm working on my dissertation, and the dissertation has to do a lot with what we've been talking about, and that is the social determinants of health. I've said time and time again that I think this is deeper than just a policing issue. And if you've followed the issue, then you understand that racism, classism, sexism, ageism, these are all issues that impact the health outcomes that we are having. And so instead of just coming up with police outcomes and police policy, we're looking to come up with comprehensive policy that actually addresses the systemic issues. That being said, I'm a research-oriented person. Everything we do is about research. So I need your help in two particular ways. First, I've shared a link to a survey that I would like for us to take about 10 or 15 minutes to complete. And that has a lot to do with who we are and how that impacts our desired health policies. Okay, so that link is in the chat. I'm hoping you will click on that link and complete the survey. It's completely anonymous. I have no idea who you are, but your feedback is going to go in to help me determine the role of community and how community impacts our desire for different types of health policy. So that's the first part, is the survey, and I'm asking everybody to participate in the survey. But what I'm also asking is that you participate in a community on health and wellness, okay? And that community basically it's a program that is designed by a board of health experts, basically from the University of Laverne and a couple other colleges, where we've literally spelled out everything from physical health, mental health, diet and nutrition, all of these things. And we want to provide the service free to the community, because I believe that that is one of the keys to undoing a lot of the racism, sexism, classism, and ageism that we're experiencing in society. So what we're doing is we actually have a community that is, you will be assigned a community support partner, and you will get a workout every day. You'll get a meal plan, or we'll talk about meal information, and we'll have weekly programs for the entire community to participate in. And what I'm assessing there is if people grow communities around their health and wellness, does that, one, increase their desire to participate in a healthy lifestyle, and two, is that likely to get them to result or want to vote for health policies that are more compassionate, if that makes sense. Any questions about that?
So actually, before we open up to questions, if it's all right, I'd like to maybe make one tie-in here, because what many people may be asking yourself is like, well, what does health have to do with my allyship? And Thomas touched on it, but I just want to expand on it a little bit. The reality is all of the proposals, all of the action steps that we are asking you guys to participate in have been thought out well in advance, and they're part of a comprehensive plan. And one of the pieces of that plan is the research that have gone in to develop it. And there's health outcomes related to it. We want to be an ongoing, living, breathing testament for people to be able to say, this is a healthy group. This is a group who doesn't just talk about the outcomes that they want, but they're willing to live it themselves. It's kind of the walk type of idea. So often, people are watching and looking for people to prove it themselves before they'll join the mission. And so what we're asking you guys to be as part of the group that will demonstrate the viability of the overall plan that shows when we increase health outcomes, we will have an increase in the societal good, which includes the elimination of all the isms that we're working to tear down. So Thomas, did you want to kick back anything on that, or we want to go to the surveys?
Well, that's it. The surveys, I put the link in the chat. We're going to take a few minutes to give folks an opportunity to complete that. And then once we do that, we have folks that have volunteered to host our breakout groups. So we're going to then return and jump into our breakout sessions, and then take it from there.
All right, so grab that link, folks, in your chat. Do we have it on the Zoom, I'm sorry, on the Facebook page as well?
I believe she's putting it on there.
Happening. So if you're on Facebook, once again, you're welcome to be on Facebook. We're so glad that this is being simulcast. However, right after this mission of completing the surveys, we will be going into a breakout session time, and that's only going to be happening for those who are able to be on Zoom. So if you can migrate over to Zoom, that'd be fantastic. We'd love to have you there. Otherwise, there'll be a brief moment of interruption or not interruption, it'll be time of silence where we'll be working through the breakout sessions in the Zoom function itself.
And just for full disclosure, like I said, everything we do is research-based, and we're trying to keep all of our research local and relevant. So this is just the first of probably a few surveys that you're going to be doing for us to really hammer in what the public really wants moving forward. I have another survey now that has been assessed by the IRB to assess the policing issues that we're going to be discussing tonight. So again, the goal is not only to make stuff up as we go and to keep, sharing stuff, but also to conduct and collect our own data. And I understand everybody can complete this survey. You don't have to have any medical restrictions. It would be if you were to participate in the actual community where you would have to pass that screening. And when you've completed the survey, can you do a thumbs up so so I have a gauge of how long it's taking folks? You're done, Colin? Awesome.
That wasn't so hard.
No, I don't even feel bad at all.
All right, getting lots of thumbs up.
So now.
Oh, 3 thumbs up. That's intense. All right, I know we've got some more people who may have recently joined us on Facebook. I see you there. If you do have the ability to go onto the Zoom, that will help facilitate some breakout rooms that we are going to be doing here very shortly to allow for active engagement and sharing. So if you have the ability, if you're on Facebook, to migrate over to the Zoom, that will once again just help the group develop and grow through these breakout sessions.
And I have, am I muted?
You're not muted. We hear you.
Oh, okay. I have the
one time.
I have the breakout rooms ready when you're ready to move in them.
Yeah. Before we jump into the breakout rooms, why don't we actually share one other thing for those of you who are continuously looking for ways to plug in and help. We have a Google Docs sheet that has been uploaded to the Operation Ally page on Facebook. A lot of people have said, hey, Thomas, hey, Jason, how can we help? I can do research. I can type things up for you guys. I can, contact my city council person. They want to help with the functionality of the group. So what we've done is we've created a Google Docs page that has several different tabs along the bottom of it. The first page, what you're going to see once you log in there, you don't have to be seeing it right now, but you'll see a list of all the different categories where we may need help, such as building our attorney network or helping us to develop our resource book for Black-owned businesses, where we can direct people if they're saying, hey, I'd love to support some Black-owned businesses. I want to get some food tonight. Is there a Black-owned restaurant near me? And we'll have a quick resource for those places in the Inland Empire, San Gabriel Valley, Pomona Valley, so that we can all have that at our fingertips. Social media outreach, city research, all of these things are labeled out or laid out in the Google Docs page. And then across the bottom, there are several tabs where it goes into detail of what is being, the action steps on those different categories. So you can go across to see right now, the one page that has been filled out the best, and you guys should take note of this, is the city information. And the reason why that's so important is because what we have given you there is a link to your city council. So you can jump right directly. You know that you live in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. You can click the link in the Google Doc. It'll take you to the Rancho Cucamonga City Council page where you can get information on when meetings are, how to get yourself set up to make comments during the public comments section. We have links to the school board meeting information, chambers of commerce, dates, time, location, all of those resources. If you've been searching around the internet trying to find it like crazy, we've put it in place for you, and that's the work, the very diligent work of the ULV debate team. We thank you for putting that together. We have Pomona Valley, San Gabriel Valley, and Inland Empire listed out. I never realized there were so many individual cities in the Inland Empire when I saw this list, and I'm very thankful to everybody putting the information together. So there's lots of ways to get plugged in, as well as a great resource sitting in that Google Docs page. So I think with that, Thomas, we can jump into the breakout rooms. And for our leaders, we sent you out into the we sent you out that message. The key is just getting everybody involved and talking. How long are we going to be at? 20 minutes on this, Thomas?
Let's see where we are in 15. And then because I don't want to have folks on too late.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we could be done easily by 7.
All right.
So leading breakout room number 1 is Rhonda. Breakout room number 2 is Matt. Breakout room number 3 is Jason. Breakout room number 4 is myself. And then breakout room number 5 is Tamala.
And folks, just so you know, what are these breakout rooms for? Just for you to share your experiences over the week and discuss amongst yourselves kind of what maybe some challenges were, what some great successes were, and even just if you didn't actually maybe go out and do anything, what some of your observations were after the last week. I know a lot of people watched, whether it was, the 13th or When They See Us or another documentary that just brought to light things for them. We just want to give you an opportunity to share about that. So that's what the purpose of the groups are. And it will not be broadcast on Facebook Live. So this portion is not going out, all around the world. It's just going to be within your small group there.
Yeah, we will be stopping the Facebook Live until 6:20. All right.
So if you're on Facebook, we'll see you in a few.
Okay, so you guys can go ahead and join your groups.
So I don't know what anybody else thinks, and I'm just going to say my group was the best. So, hey, appreciate y'all.
I'm going to go ahead and say that is factually incorrect.
I'm going to go ahead and say you can't prove that.
I am going to go ahead and say that science is on my side. Okay?
I will say that we were 30 seconds from having a team name, so and I'll leave it at that.
Oh.
Woo, that was funny. Okay, so it sounds like you guys actually had some really good conversations. So here's what we are back live on Facebook. What we wanted to do is kind of get a feel for people's experiences, be able to talk about those experiences in a generic fashion without letting anybody feel that their one particular experience or whatever is being aired to the public. So, facilitators, go ahead and throw out some of the things that, were experienced in your group. And if you're in those groups and feel comfortable filling in those gaps, then, by all means. But what we want to do is we want to let folks who are maybe viewing this later on or in Facebook land that there are challenges to allyship, and the challenges that they're experiencing are likely not unique from the same challenges that many of you are experiencing. And so there's a commonality that I think everyone has to share here. So I'll start. my group was absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that we had people get vulnerable. We heard that really there's a privilege here, and that privilege that have been taken for granted is what they are allowed to let in their hearts, right? Being able to decide what you want to watch and some of the tragedy and all that stuff that you expose yourself to is a privilege in and of itself. But because folks are kind of late to the game or whatever, they have been blinded to the realities. A lot of what has been historically proven is now being rushed in. Like there's a rush of information, there's a lot of energy, people want to get moving now, and it's starting to become exhausting to people, emotionally, physically, spiritually. People are starting to feel overwhelmed. These are tough conversations, right? And getting caught in the binary, the us versus them, makes it hard to be stuck in the middle and say, no, it's not just us versus them. It's more complicated than that. And that means that it's been very hard getting family to come to that realization. Probably most. And so actually we're hearing that people are starting to develop strategies in their own communities, which I think is a very beautiful thing, on how they can do better jobs communicating with folks inside of their communities, what strategies they might be able to employ with the people around them, which is work beyond this particular group. So I think it's been absolutely perfect. But one thing I think this group might be helpful for, and a challenge that came up, is language, such as defunding the police, right? That just overcoming the language barrier has been a challenge for people because a misunderstanding of what the terms mean, the implications of those terms, etc. And so really just making sure that we're able to articulate what's going on in a way that doesn't inflame someone emotionally, because either the language that we're using doesn't fit right with their values, or they have a misunderstanding of the situation altogether, so that language becomes triggering to some people. So that was a kind of a recap of what I got. This is going to be a local issue that's going to take local solutions, and folks are really just trying to figure it out. But I think the walk away from all of this, and one thing I wanted to stress, was if love is always the response, it becomes a lot less exhausting, right? So love is always on our side, right? Jesus said it, so if you treated the least of them, so if you treated me. Okay, so if you're talking about protecting the most vulnerable, the innocent, you're talking about protecting that person that was about to be stoned, right? Where Jesus says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. That is, you are that person right now that is stepping in front of that person and refusing those stones to be thrown. Okay, so if you are taking that disposition, then just remember you're always on the right side of love, and therefore always on the right side of history, and that makes this much less exhausting. But so that's kind of the summary and the takeaway from group 4. I don't, if there's anybody who wanted to add anything, or the next group wanted to jump in from something that we started with. All right, go ahead. Jason, do you want to go?
I'll go ahead and share a bit from my group. One of the things that was so powerful, in our group, is that we had a pastor of a church who was in our group, and what their leadership team was able to do was to bring together a couple of Black pastors that they had known and had some fellowship with in the past, but actually bring them to their congregation and allow them to have a conversation with the congregation, so that the congregation actually got to hear from a person of faith, and that they could relate to, as well as a person of color. And the idea for me right there, that's a perfect example of using whatever platform you have and amplifying Black voices. Because one of the things that's been really important to Thomas and I as we go through this is, all of you are tremendous allies, and you're agreeing to work to move this cause forward. But something that you'll find a lot of kickback from the Black community is the idea of a white savior. The idea of like, hey, I'm gonna step in and I'm gonna fix all the problems that are going on here now that I'm here to stand up. It's more about magnifying the voices of leadership that you find will resonate with your community and helping them to understand what people are already saying and have been saying for decades and centuries even. So that was tremendous leadership, I thought, on her part. And so that's on a grand scale, but then even a very moving moment that we had with another individual who wanted to speak to her father and did not feel comfortable because of his political affiliation and very strong, adamant affiliation in one direction that you can all probably guess towards, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But she had this internalized concern that I can't express these things to him, and she called him to reach out to him and, hey, how's it going, Dad? And Dad said, you know, I'm really having a bad day. Well, what's going on? Why are you having a bad day? Well, last night I was at my small group and we're all sitting around and we're talking, and it just bothered me so much. Why is nobody saying anything on what's going on in this world? And it hurt me that nobody wanted to say anything.
Wow.
And, you know, then someone replied, well, I'll just use the name Bob. Well, Bob, what do you mean? That all lives matter? Is that what you want to talk about? And he was just shut down and didn't have a response and kind of just didn't know where to go. And he was hurting for himself. And I may be losing some of the details in the story. If the individual wants to speak out, no problem. I will give you that space. But he was hurting and not knowing where to go from there and feeling like I tried to do something and I wasn't equipped. And there's been this beautiful moment between he and her of now being able to learn together and walk down this this path together so that he can be a voice into a community that you know, will only listen to somebody like him because they're all very similar to him. And so I just thought, you know, what powerful truth there, that so often we have preconceived notions of how people will receive this. And despite being, you know, on an extreme political ideology, yet the reality is this is not a red hat or a blue hat issue. This is a human rights issue. And in fact, it is very American to stand up and demand that America deliver on her promise of freedom and justice for all. And if along this spectrum of all, something is missing, I'm going to point it out and I'm going to demand that we provide it for this part of all. That doesn't mean I need to scream that all lives matter, because right now I'm not seeing a problem with all lives mattering. I'm seeing a problem with Black lives and brown lives mattering to the degree that America promises she will provide for all lives. And so that, you know, if you want to have a good response for somebody on, well, all lives matter, well, but all lives are not being given the freedom and justice for all. So I just thought it was a tremendous moment, and that's why our group was great. Matt, Rhonda, or anybody within my group, do you guys want to provide more context or share anything else that came out?
Tamala.
Hi. Hi guys.
Hey, Stephanie.
How are you?
Good.
I'm so sorry I'm late. But I'm here. I had meetings.
Oh, it's okay. We're live on Facebook.
Oh, hi, Facebook. Okay. So I feel like I'm coming in at the 11th hour here.
Well, no, right now we're having folks who are in the group reflections, the leaders debrief what happened in their group. So you're good.
Okay. Can I share something that happened to me today?
Sure.
Well, I talked to my police chief today,
Okay.
and I told him about an experience that I had here locally, and we talked about it. It was with my son, and we had a really productive, good conversation. We also talked about the use of targets, certain targets that to me that the ones that I saw that looked like Black people. We talked about that. You know, in their training rooms. I had the opportunity because I was part of a leadership academy locally. So I had the opportunity to see behind the scenes of all the departments in the city. And so that was just one thing I noticed. And I told him, I said, that was a real trigger for me. And he said that they don't typically use those, and he could understand why. And he said they have an array of them, but that's something that they were going to address and make sure that's not something they're going to use anymore.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about police strategies in a little bit here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is kind of a bit of a tangent. But
I'm sorry.
thank you for sharing, Stephanie.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I want to hear more. So Matt, Rhonda, or Tamala, you guys have anything you guys want to add to what we've put on the table?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Tamara, you going?
Yeah. So my group, we were able to have some honest dialogue where they were able to, just recognize that growing up, they received like mixed messages from their parents. So it wasn't necessarily saying things like, Black people are bad or stay away, but they didn't have, any Black friends, or if they're driving down the street and see a Black person to, lock the doors, or can't go in certain areas or go to certain places. And so that was, just awareness for them, realizing that, okay, that happened. So now trying to undo, what was taught growing up. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
It was a good conversation.
I thought it was moving. Like the fact that I've never heard a white person talk about that before. And when I heard someone else say that, I was like, holy shit, that happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the powerful things that came out of our group as well was, this type of vulnerability is the kind of stuff that triggers a heart, but like the ways in which I perpetuated this, or I played along, or had a role in this system continuing and not knowing, right? But just going about life, living life, the system is being perpetuated and there's no knowledge of it. Matt or Rhonda, you guys want to add?
I can. I had the pleasure of having a group of teachers and students. So it was really cool to hear how they are, a couple of them are changing their curriculum for summer to address what's going on right now, and hearing out their students and helping them to learn. One of the ladies in the group has even sent home permission slips for her students to watch 13th, so they can be educated in that way. It was so cool to hear that they are talking about it in their families, having discussions with their little ones, which they never, would thought to have done before, but realizing that it's important to start with our children and teaching them about this issue, and hopefully shedding some light and enlightenment for our kids. We had a student in the group, young, and I appreciate her energy, and it's just really cool to see that they're wanting to have the conversations, and we all agree that this is an ugly time happening, but it's necessary to start the healing process, and we're excited for that as we move forward to have these conversations. So it was really cool, and I know I'm speaking really quickly. So if anybody else in my group wants to say anything of what they got out of our conversation, I just thought it was really quick, but it was a deep conversation that was really cool to have, and I'm so thankful for them for saying what was on their minds.
Matt, last but not least. Uh-oh, you're on mute.
Thomas, of all the things you do, you can't read lips. Come on. Come on. My group, I'm just proud to have shared those couple of moments with them. Just in what we spoke about and the way that they spoke so honestly, I actually felt safe in that space. And I felt not safe in the that I wouldn't be hurt, but safe in that I would be heard, seen, and recognized. And that's something that I think that we as people are all looking for. And the fact that this group was able to find people like the folks that came into my group, which is why it was the best group, is what makes this such a winning movement. And I'm proud to know that. A few of the concepts that came up in our conversation were that of building trust, the idea of humanizing versus dehumanizing, stepping up, and just trying to lead conversations with other people that might be difficult, and the power of listening as a form of action. So oftentimes we're looking for ways to fight back and do different things, but if you just listen to what someone else is saying, for example, we spoke about Confederate statues and the position that we take on that. And the answer, we gave a couple of different responses, but all landed in the same place of trying to understand the person that wants to maintain that statue and recognizing what world they're living in. And any conversation that we're having with people, the more we learn about them, the more we can understand the possible alternatives to making things better. So the 7 of us in that room were able to knock down a couple of walls of vulnerability, and I was really proud to be with them.
That's so awesome. Sounds like that was a trend in most of the rooms, is vulnerability. And that's exactly the purpose of the breakout rooms, was hoping that you guys were able to get beyond the walls, because not only is this going to be a group of advocacy, but hopefully this is also a group that people can come find healing, right? Ourselves, everyone can come to this place and walk away with some sort of healing. Jason, do you want to add anything to that? You're on mute.
That's what we do. That's what we do. We start off on mute. We actually had somebody start off on mute in our group too. So I do really want to commend everybody for, just your ability to be open and honest throughout the week and have some hard conversations. And maybe a lot of the hard conversations just happen inside yourselves, and that's okay as well. But as you have these hard conversations with other people, just encroaching on those moments and then bringing it to the group in a way of extreme vulnerability. I would also like to echo Matt's statement around the idea of meeting people where they are and understanding, as we go back even to our first presentation, a key to successful engagement is for us to seek first to understand. Hey, I don't think we should tear down Confederate statues. I don't think we should defund the police. Well, hey, help me understand that. Why do you feel that way? Where are you coming from? Why is that so important for you right now? And that was actually a strategy that one of the individuals used in our group, and that was really powerful too. The other thing it did for them too is she was able to maintain her own emotions, because she was asking questions rather than trying to find responses. So for some of you who may have gotten involved in conversations that got too out of control or emotional, and or you just weren't sure where to go next, the perfect opportunity to just ask a question. Hey, help me understand that. Why is that so important to you right now? And let the other person unpack for themselves where they're at. So tremendous job on everybody. So thankful for you and your advocacy and your strength in being able to do that.
Okay, so now let's talk about where we're going in this next week or so. I want to talk very quickly, actually, before we get into this. One thing that came up quite a few times is what are the solutions? What are going to be the ways forward? And in our area, we're actually looking to start the Center for Black Culture and Excellence. Okay, and the reason why we're looking to start this center, first of all, the center itself is designed to not only represent Black culture, but to present it to the community in a way that allows you to consume it, to enjoy it, and to experience it, so that you get full appreciation for it. One thing that is different about the Black community compared to any other group is we don't have a nation. And what that means is, without a nation, is we don't have the cultural pockets and hubs that a lot of cultures have, because we're more fragmented, right? You want some good Asian food, you know that you could go to Hacienda Heights, you can go to Roland Heights, you could drive down Arcadia. Like, there are places where you can go, and if folks speak a particular language, they know that they got each other's back, and you know that you can go and you can fraternize these and patronize these types of businesses. We don't have that, right? And so what we have, particularly in the region that I live in, the East San Gabriel Valley, Pomona Valley, and Inland Empire, we have a situation where the Black community makes up between 1% and 7% of each of the populations in this area, which means that we don't have enough of a population to get recognition the way that a lot of Asian groups, Latino groups, and white groups do. But at the same time, we have enough people to have a common experience, a common history, but not to be joined by it. So if you want to talk about how do you help the Black community, you help the Black community by allowing the Black community to help itself. Okay, and so we're looking to start this center because this center is going to be the collection, the hub of the talent, the Black talent that we have in this area. And we're going to be able to put that talent, that culture, and that excellence on full display in practice. The result of that is not only do you now have a bunch of Black people walked around knowing and understanding their history, you also have systems that have been put in place where we are capturing our youth, we are educating our youth, we are expanding Black arts and culture, we are providing cuisine, we are providing research, right? When everybody's talking about, well, show me that this is a problem. Well, let us show you. We can have a research institute that is set up in this hub. We can capture our own issues and create a lot of the benefits that the government claims to be able to provide for our community. We can provide that ourselves, right? So when people say, well, what does it mean to defund the police? Forget defunding the police. Take it off the table. I don't care about the word defunding, okay? I just need funding for this. Where you get the funding from is up to you, okay? But we know that there are Black youth out there are Black elders out there. There are Black issues that are not being addressed. And if you don't think this is a local issue, statistically, the Black community in my region have the highest unemployment rate, have the lowest median income, and have the lowest net worth and wealth in the region, right? Even though statistically we work just as hard as all the other groups. So the disparities are there. Okay, we can have the answers in fixing our own communities. We have a museum right here in Pomona that is literally fledgling. Like every single month almost, they're having to do fundraisers because they can't survive. We have Black nonprofits that do not receive the grant funding that other white nonprofits in this very region receive. And because of that, they're fledgling. Okay, so if we're talking about how do we help the Black community, we help the Black community help themselves by taking the restrictions and the boot off their neck, right? George Floyd wasn't the only Black person with the boot on his neck. We as a people have a boot on our neck, and we need it to be lifted. And the way that you do that is by recognizing that Black individuals have we have talent, we have leadership, and we have the ability to do it. How do you help us do it? So that's the first thing is if you're in this region, we want your effort behind this Center for Black Excellence and Black Culture and Excellence, because allyship is more than just lip service. It's about actually creating the systems that provide these individuals the ability to empower their own futures, okay? So that we need your effort behind that. And it's an effort geared in love and community. We cannot love you until we learn to first love ourselves. The second thing I want to put before you is policing, okay? The Can't Wait 8 campaign is a great conversation starter, right? But that's exactly it. It's a conversation starter. What we have is a document that literally lists all the questions, or at least many of the questions that you might want to ask when you are when you're in meetings with your police department. Okay, so this is broken down based on the areas that we discussed the last time, but these are questions under each one that help you get in more. What you're probably going to get from a lot of departments is they already do the Can't Wait 8. Okay, it's not just about having the policy, it's how those policies are actually being implemented and how they're actually being executed. It's, if you ask your police department, is there implicit bias training? They're going to say yes, there's implicit bias training, and then we're going to move on. Well, what does that implicit bias training look like? How much of it are they getting compared to their lethal weapons training, right? How much training are they getting as far as de-escalation tactics and use of non-lethal force compared to going to the gun range and using lethal weapons? Okay.
Hey, Thomas.
Sure.
Just want to jump in here real quick. Unless I'm mistaken, we are going to be uploading this document for the allies to be able to have for themselves, correct?
Yeah, and right now I'm basically just giving an overview of what's in the document and how to find it. What I really want you guys to do is take this document, add whatever questions you think are more relevant. This is a starting point. I'm not assuming to have all the answers or all the right questions. I'm giving you a starting point on where to take some of your questions that you might have, okay? So under training, these are the questions that I would ask. If you're talking about the complaint process, where does the complaint go? Who investigates? Like, these are all follow-up questions that you can ask that gets you better understanding of the actual police protocols and how they execute their policing, okay? It is not enough to throw a national campaign at a local police department because they have policies that respond to them. Ask more detail about how those policies are being implemented and how police are actually being trained to execute those policies. And that's what this resource here is for. If we have your email, you will receive this document. We're also going to be uploading the document on our social media. We're also going to be uploading scripts and templates because we want you engaged with your local officials this week in understanding, one, the many budgets are being passed next week. Okay, so we want you to ask for budget allocation if you're in this region toward the Center for Black Culture and Excellence. Okay, we're providing a public service to the region, and we want you to ask your government to make some allocation to that region in its budget. And this is something that cities are doing next week, so we need to get these email out to in the next couple of days. The other thing that we are asking you to do is there's a lot of pushback that the elected officials are getting in relation to making statements of Black Lives Matter. Okay, we need to make counter statements. Okay, we need to send an email and we need to send in public comments thanking the elected officials for recognizing that Black Lives Matter, but not taking a divisive position, right? I have the template, so don't go off my words here. You have the wording. But the point is, we want to congratulate our elected officials for recognizing that Black Lives Matter. And we also want to send the message that just because you recognize Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that you're anti-police or you don't think that police lives matter. Okay, so that is where this is being spun. So we're going to create a counter narrative by getting out a public statement and getting out in public comment that we are grateful for the comments that have been made and the leadership that has been done, and that we encourage that type of leadership to continue in the future. Any questions on what I've just talked about? So 2 things. First, if you're setting up a meeting with your police chief, go on, get these questions and add your questions. The second thing is we want everybody to send an email to their elected official, and we want everybody to submit a comment for public comment, asking that there be funds that are allocated to this particular effort, and as well as thanking them for their leadership and taking the positions that they have. Make the template your own, do what you want to do with them, but they will be available to you.
And also, I would add in that, you know, as Thomas talked about, thanking them for public officials specifically, because so much of their career, or at least this portion of their career, because a lot of them do this bivocationally, is dependent upon their reputation. So specifically, if you, for example, I know we mentioned Liz Encarnacion with her outreach to the mayor, found a comment that he made buried on a small subpage of a page, and you know, it was an hour into his statement. But even on making a public comment, naming him, you know, I want to thank you, Mayor, for the comment that you made on this particular page at this particular moment. It was powerful and impacting. I'm looking forward to more similar comments from you know, other council members in a public space. Your constituency believes in these things. So you know, that add to his reputation, and that kind of pat on the back will go a long way in political circles. And I know it may feel like, well, you know, why are we just congratulating him for one small thing? Remember, this is a time where we need to amplify the good, not divide on the bad. We can jump in and point fingers and come off very, very self-righteous when we, you know, people always talk about, you know, you're virtue signaling. Well, hey, I'm going to be thankful for what's been done, and I'm going to encourage more. And if we come at it from that sort of perspective, people have, you know, what's the old saying? You're going to attract more bees with honey. So we want to be kind with our words and encourage more support and acknowledge what has been done and take the incremental change, because eventually what happens is we get to the tipping point where we create an environment in America that's inhospitable to racism. And we need every bit of sand, you know, every grain of sand on our side in order to create that environment that we're all looking forward to. So just please pour out those support for public statements that have been made.
All right. Yeah, I've already did it. If you're on Facebook and we don't have your email, please make sure we get your email. We, again, are going to be making a concerted effort to try and target cities at a time, try and get big group responses. So you're going to get an email with our action items as well as our templates. Thank you guys for joining us. It is 7 o'clock. I want to be light and delicate on your time. If you have any questions or comments or anything you want to stay on, that's okay. You don't have to go home. Just got to get the heck off my Zoom. I'm just kidding. If you are not on Facebook, then again, make sure that we have another way of getting a hold of you, and use us in between time. If you're moving this conversation forward and you want more specialized tools or more specialized advice, then contact either Jason or I, or do like we've been doing, posting it in the Facebook, and we'll be there. All right. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.